Dear friends, today we have made this short video to just briefly capture the GST Council meeting changes which have recently happened on 28th and 29th of June in Chandigarh. It lasted for 2 days and there were several important decisions that had taken place during the meeting. Though definitely they are just the decisions that have taken place in the GST Council and are not yet enforced. However, as we all know that decisions of the GST Council are gradually enforced by way of issuing the notifications, which will gradually be done in this case also. So we move towards the recent changes that have, recent proposals that have been made in the GST Council meeting. If we divide the entire changes that are proposed in the GST Council meeting, they can be divided into two portions. One is the rate changes and the other is the non-rate changes. The non-rate changes that are specifically can be divided into 3-4 different categories, wherein they pertain to measures for trade facilitation, measures for streamlining compliances, then steps towards establishment of GST appellate tribunal, and mechanisms to be put to verify the antecedents of the registrant. So basically, these are the non-rate changes that have been proposed, and we will be discussing them in detail. Then apart from these, there are several important rate changes that have been proposed in the GST Council meeting. There are certain changes in the rate changes which are for the rationalizing the inverted duty structure so that there is no problem of inverted duty structure. Then there are changes in the tax rates where the tax rates of several items have been either increased or decreased, and there are the rates for the various services have also been changed in this, are being proposed to be changed in this council meeting. So first we will start with the non-rate changes, specifically for measures for trade facilitation. So in measures for trade facilitation, typically, the first change that we'll be briefly covering all the changes with just a few discussion thereon, and which are more relevant. So waiver for requirement of mandatory registration under under the CGST Act for the person supplying goods through e-commerce. As of now, what used to happen was any person who has to sell the goods on the e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Flipkart and all. So they used to get the mandatory registration which was required for them. But now it has been proposed that the waiver for the mandatory registration would be given to the person for supplying the goods through the e-commerce registration, subject to conditions that their aggregate turnover is definitely below the threshold limit as which is prescribed under the GST law. And the second condition is that the person is not making any interstate taxable supply. So this point is a little catchy because we don't know how it will be typically implemented when it comes through sales through e-commerce platform, as we all know that through e-commerce platforms are accessible to all the people throughout India and anyone can purchase. So how that will be monitored, that a person who is not registered on the e-commerce platform, that should not be able to make any interstate taxable supply, that we need to see when this provision gets enforced. Similarly, for the e-commerce operators, composition taxpayers are also now being allowed to make intrastate supply through e-commerce operators. So not the interstate supply, but definitely the intrastate supplied through the e-commerce will be permitted for the composition taxpayers. And this will also be subject to certain conditions, which as of now we don't know. So it is important here to note that these two changes pertain to e-commerce operators, wherein they will be restricting the supplies of the non-GST registrants to make the interstate supply. Then it is proposed to amend the formula for the refund as given in Rule 89.5 for calculation of refund of unutilized input tax credit on account of inverted rate structure. What that formula would be, as of now, really we can't say that what the formula would be, but it definitely says that this would help the taxpayers who are availing ITC on input services also. So we need to see how the change really helps the refund claimants. Next, what they have proposed is very important change, which is pertaining to the refund of the IGST paid on the goods while making the exports. In this case, there will be a mechanism to identify the risky exporter. Maybe that is done through the customs or how they're going to identify. So they'll be identifying the risky exporter, and thereby the refund claims of those risky exporters will not be automatically given to them, but they will be transmitted to the jurisdictional GST authorities for processing. They will do their own verification, and thereafter only the refund would be given to such exporters. So this we need to see how this really comes up, because how many risky exporters are being identified, what is the criteria to identify the risky exporters, and is it AI based, is it manual, and how. So again, this will give rise to a lot of delay in getting the refund claims, especially when you have already paid the tax and are going to claim the refund claims for the risky exporters. Recredit of union amount in the electronic credit ledger. So now if the person has been given a erroneous refund of the IGST, whether on of the IGST paid on the zero rated supply of goods or services, or the accumulated ITC. So in that case, if there is an erroneous refund and later on he surrenders that erroneous refund along with the applicable penalty and interest, in that case, the amount would be recredited in his electronic credit ledger. Till now, the authorities were really not giving this, and there was no provision. They were saying that there is no provision to return back, but then practically. So, but now this has been made that there will be specific provision which will provide for recredit of amount in the electronic credit ledger only. And there will be a suitable form, GST PMT 03A, which will be introduced for the same. Apart from that, we all know that there were two important changes that have been earlier brought in the section 53 and section 49 of the CGST Act. Section 53 talks about the 50 subclause 3 talks about the interest that would be applicable on the wrongly availed ITC. It said that it will be applicable only when the same is utilized, and this change would have effect from 1/7/2017. It is important to note that this change has not been made effective till date. So in this context, the GST Council meeting, it has been decided that there has to be notification to this aspect to notify these provisions with the retrospective amendment. Secondly, there was a change in section 49 which was introduced some time back with respect to the transfer of balance in electronic cash ledger of a registered person to electronic cash ledger of either CGST or IGST of a distinct person. So this provision was also there, and it was brought to ensure that there are less cash flow problems for the assessees. But then this was never enforced till now. Now it is being said that these provisions will also be notified. Also, it has been said that there should be more clarity on how to compute the interest under section 50, because there are a lot of disputes for the method of calculation under section 50 itself. So it is expected that there might be some kind of circular also, which shall be brought in to provide more clarity as to how the interest amount needs to be calculated. Then there are certain procedural changes like waiver of late fee for delay in filing form GSTR 4 for FY 2021-22 and extension of due date for filing form GST CMP 08 for Q1 of financial year 22-23. So to extend the due date of filing GST CMP 08 for first quarter of financial year 22-23, it has been extended till 31st of July 2022. Earlier, it was till 18th of July 2022. Earlier, as you all know, there was a proposal to introduce a system of e-wallet, wherein the goods which would be imported under advanced authorization EPCG or EOU scheme. In that case, there was a proposal to introduce a system of e-wallet in which the importer would be paying the tax, but that would be deposited in his e-wallet, which would be typically utilized. So in such a case, now it has been proposed that this proposal of e-wallet is will not be there, and the current scheme of exemption of IGST on import of goods under advance authorization EPCG and EU scheme will be continued. So as of now, this e-wallet scheme will not be pursued further. Then there have at times been, we all know that a lot of disputes or ambiguities in various issues in GST. So in the GST Council, they have identified some 7-8 areas where they believe that there should be some kind of clarity by the by issuance of circulars, and on which would clarify certain issues, and those issues which are identified, and it says that they should be for benefiting the taxpayers at large. So, and the areas which they have identified are typically clarification on issue of claiming refund under inverted duty structure, where supplier is supplying goods under some concessional notification. So it's something like earlier what was happening is that if a tax assessee whose goods attract say 5% of rate, and his inward comes at 12% or 18%, in that case he was eligible for inverted duty structure benefit. But then there could be some cases where directly the rate is not 5%, but then he applied some concessional notification, and thereby he would be supplying the goods under the concessional notification at concessional rate. So in that case, the department used to deny the benefit of inverted structure, saying that this is, you have availed the benefit of a concessional notification, and therefore the benefit of inverted duty structure should not be made applicable to you. And now recognizing this problem, though there is no clarity in the law as of now, so recognizing this problem, the GST Council meeting has proposed that there should be a clarification on issue of claiming refund under inverted duty structure, where the supplier is supplying goods under some concessional notification also. Second area which they have identified is clarification on various issues relating to applicability of demand and penalty provisions under CGST Act in respect of transaction involving fake invoices. Then they have also identified the problematic areas of, then they have also said that you should also disclose the interstate supply, the amount of ineligible and blocked credits in your GSTR 3B also. So as of now, what was happening is that you just have a figure of input tax credit with you, and you take some portion of it to utilize, some portion of the complete credit to utilize towards your outward tax liability. But how much it is blocked out of that, how much is ineligible, that was not reported in the GSTR 3B. So the government would come up with a clarification on mandatory furnishing of information pertaining to ineligible and blocked credits also in your GSTR 3B. Then there are circulars to be issued for clarifications to be issued for issues pertaining to refund claimed by recipients of supplies regarded as deemed export. Then with respect to the blocked credits under section 75 of the CGST Act also, it is said that there would be some clarifications which would be issued. We need to wait and watch what those clarifications would be. Then it is also said that the clarifications to be issued for perquisites provided by the employer to the employees as per the contractual agreement. Because this was also a very, very gray area till now. So let's see whether those clarifications really help in sorting out the issues, or they make the things more complex. Clarification on utilization of amounts available in electronic credit ledger and electronic cash ledger for payment of tax and other liabilities. To again mention this, all these have been said that they should be, such clarifications should be issued which are benefiting the taxpayers at large. So we should be positive on the kind of the clarifications that would be issued, but we need to really wait and watch as to what clarifications are issued and how much are they really clarificatory, or they create some more problems. Apart from that, one important proposal which has been made is that there should be an explanation added to Rule 43 of the CGST rules, in which there would be a specific proposal to not make any reversal for input tax credit for exempted supply of duty credit scrips by the exporters. So as of now, as we all know that under FTP, there are various duty credit scrips which are being given to the exporters to promote the exports. And those duty credit scrips are typically exempted under the GST law for payment of the tax on, so they are for payment of tax under GST law. So they are treated as an exempted supply. And since they are treated as an exempted supply, therefore they call for the reversal of the input tax credit. But now it is proposed that there should be no requirement of reversal of input tax credit. But how the wordings would be there for Rule 43, what the provision would be, does it will it allow complete reversal, will it allow no reversal at all, or will it allow for some reversal? We cannot say as of now. And UPI and IMPS are also now recognized for additional mode of payment for the GST, which was not there till now. Apart from that, one important change is supplies from duty-free shops at international terminal to outgoing international passengers. This should be treated as an export, and therefore refund should be given to them. So these are the specific provisions with respect to the non-rate changes. Then there are certain measures introduced for streamlining compliances, though they are not really means for all of them. Majorly, it's something like they have to, council group of ministers have to basically make the reports, and then that will be submitted, and then the GST Council will be typically deciding upon them. So in this case, measures for streamlining compliances. One important change that they are going to propose is the provision of automatic revocation of suspension of registration in cases where suspension of registration was done by the system. So for non-payment, for non-filing of the returns. So in this case, there was a provision which said that if you don't file continuous non-filing of returns for a specified number of time, so in that case, the system used to automatically cancel the suspend the registration. And now the provision would be there will be a facility which will automatically revoke the suspension once you file all the returns. So once you file all the returns, then in that case automatically your registration would be made, your registration would be active. And then apart from that, one thing is that there are various High Court judgments recently which said that the period from 1/3/2020 to 28/2/2022 should be excluded for calculation of limitation period for filing of refund claim also, because there was a suo motu order by the Supreme Court which talked about the litigations typically which are pending, but the High Courts have applied that order to the refund claims also by way of interpretation. So now it is proposed that going by those orders, that yes, this period will be excluded, and accordingly the assessees can file their refund claims. If it how this provision will be enacted, let's see, wait and watch. But apart from that, it is also said that this will not be applicable only for filing of the refund claims. This period will also be excluded for issuance of demand and order by the proper officer in respect of the erroneous refunds. So they are making their own side also safe by extending this period. They are saying even the department can ask for your erroneous refund. Secondly, even the limitation period under section 73 for issuance of order in respect of other demands linked with due date of annual return, that has been extended till 30th September 2023 for financial year 17-18. So for financial year 17-18, the issuance of order which is linked to which is for the demands, so that can be done till 30th September 2023, which is now approximately more than 1 year apart from today. They have shown some interest, at least in constituting the GST Appellate Tribunal. Rather, I would not say in constituting the GST Appellate Tribunal. It is just said that they will decide on the constitution of the group of ministers so to address various concerns by the states in relation to the constitution of GST Appellate Tribunal. So again, this is a very, very laid back provision. Typically, it's more than 5 years since the GST has been implemented, and we all know that till now there is no tribunal. And going by this proposal, it seems that there may not be GST Appellate Tribunal in near future also. So these are basically the non-rate changes, important changes that have been proposed in the GST meeting council meeting. Apart from these, there are lot and lots of rate changes for various goods and services. Those rates changes, if I brief, would be: one is pertaining to the rationalization of to remove the inverted duty structure. So in these, what they have done is a simple method. They have increased the rate of all those items, many items in fact, so as to remove that inverted duty structure problem, rather than actually addressing what the inverted duty structure problem was. So I don't really think this is a welcome step just to remove, just to make the GST rate higher and collect more taxes, and which goes to the kitty of the government. So they should have ideally come up with some solution to the problems being faced by them, and just not increasing the rate of tax. Apart from that, on various services also, there have been lots of ups and downs in the tax rates. Say like earlier, the works contract for roads, bridges, railways, metro, effluent treatment plant, crematorium, etc. was subject to 12%. Now it will be subject to 18%. Then similarly for job work rates, they have amended from 5% to 12% for many job work processes. Similarly, for works contracts applied to central and state governments, union territories, and local authorities involving predominantly earthwork and contracts thereof, from 5% to 12%. So they have increased a lot of majority of the rate changes are towards the increase of GST rates rather than the decrease of GST rates. There are very, very few items on which the GST rates have been decreased. Otherwise, majority of them are only towards the increase on the GST rates, which will make things more costlier for the people. The decrease, if we talk about, they are more for the medical sector, like ostomy appliances, orthopedic appliances, wherein the rates have been decreased from 12% to 5%. Then apart from that, this is majorly then IGST on specified defense items imported by private entities, wherein the end user is the defense forces. So where if you're importing some defense related items from outside India, and those goods are meant for ultimately by the defense forces, so in that case, those will be now be exempted. Till now, there was an applicable rate of GST on them, because they were being imported by the private parties. Apart from these, there are apart from these, an important change which seeks to increase the rate of goods is typically checks, loose or in book form. Till now, it was not subject to any GST, but now it will be subject to 18% GST, which is quite high. So if your bank charges for the issuance of the checks or loose checks from you, then in that case, it will also charge the 18% GST on such issuance of the checks. Apart from that, everything else, I think, is an increase in the rate only, whether it's e-waste. E-waste increased from 5% to 18%. Petroleum, coal bed methane increased from 5% to 12%. Then scientific and technical instruments applied to public funded research institutes, 5% to the applicable rates. So when we say applicable rates, so a person who is supplying such goods to scientific research institutes, in that case, they will have to identify the appropriate HSN of each item, and then they will have to see under which classification it goes and what rate it applies. So individual rate will apply. Earlier, it was a flat rate of 5% if these are being supplied to public funded research institutes. Apart from that, there were various exemptions which were available to various services, and those exemptions will be withdrawn and will be subject to tax. Exemptions like transportation by rail or a vessel of railway equipment and material, storage and warehousing of commodities which attracts tax, fumigation in a warehouse of agricultural produce, services by RBI, IRDA, SEBI, FSSAI, GST and services, renting of residential dwelling to business entities who are registered persons, services provided by cord blood banks by way of preservation of stem cells. So these were completely exempted till now, but now onwards, now means when I say now, it means from the effective date, whenever it is. So from that date, they will be subject to tax. There was an exemption on transportation of passengers by air to and from northeast states and Bagdogra is now being restricted only to economy class. Earlier it was also for business class, but now it is restricted only to economy class. Hotel accommodation which is priced up to 1,000 rupees per day shall be taxed at 12%, and room rent, this is an important change, room rent excluding the ICU which is charged by the hospitals which is exceeding 5,000 per day will be subject to tax at 5% without ITC by the hospitals. So this is also an important proposal. Then definitely there is an important proposal pertaining to GST on casinos, racecourse and online gaming. There will be a complete, the council has asked the group of ministers to submit its complete report on this as to how this should be streamlined and should be taken up under the GST. It has provided clarity. These are till now what I have described are the rate changes which have either gone up or gone down. But then there are certain clarifications which will come up pertaining to the rate changes in the goods, like the electric vehicles will be subject whether or not fitted with a battery pack, both to be eligible for concession rate of 5%. Similarly, all fly ash bricks attract the same concession rate irrespective of the fly ash content. Earlier it was dependent upon the content. So there are many rate clarifications also which will be issued in due course of time. One similarly for clarification in relation to GST rate on services, which also include important changes like the GTA services which attract either the 12% rate or the 5% rate, or so there will be some clarification on them as well as to what they have to make a choice at the beginning of the financial year, and then accordingly that will be taken up. So there will be various, they have identified many items under this for which there would be clarification also pertaining to services, also rate on services, rate on goods that we need to see. So therefore this GST Council meeting, it was a 2-day long meeting, and as we can see there are many changes which have been proposed in this GST Council meeting, and therefore we can expect a lot of changes to be notified in the coming days. One important thing I would like to mention here, that all the rate changes which are recommended in this GST Council will be made effective from 18th of July 2022. So ideally the rate changes notifications should come before the 18th of July, which will typically be enforced from 18th of July. Apart from that, the non-rate changes, they will be enforced as and when their notification comes. So this is just a brief crux of the proposals that have been accepted and made in the GST Council meeting in its 47th meeting in Chandigarh. I hope this session, a short video, was useful for all of you. Thank you.